time now to welcome my first guest today, His Excellency Paul Goa Zoumanigui, Ambassador of the Republic of Guinea to the UK, a mineral-rich agricultural powerhouse that's also celebrating a strong showing in Africa's Cup of Nations football tournament. It's Ebola, though, that has been the word most associated with Guinea in recent months. And throughout those months of global and regional battle against the virus in West Africa, we here on Arise News have followed the massive effort by the international community to help those countries worst hit. And we're told the number of new cases is slowing, or is it? Well, to shed some light on that, as I mentioned earlier, I'm joined now by Paul Goa Zoumanigui, Ambassador to the UK for Guinea. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Now, we've just heard, hot off the press, that there are new cases of Ebola reported in Guinea this year, 2015. Tell us more about that.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me on this show. This started apparently in December 2014. But it was just discovered later back because Ebola has the same symptom as malaria and so on, typhoid. And when it was known that the Ebola is the disease, the government recognized it on the 21st of March, and steps were taken to try to stop it. It was not easy, as it was the first experience for the country, but the government tried to put in place coordination to sensitize the population and also to approach the international community, the partners, to come and help. Most was done. But the most important is that there were the establishment of the National Coordination Committee, which were decentralized all over the country. And the international partners were part of that coordination committee. And work has been done so far. We can say thanks God and thanks to our partners, and also the government has been doing its best really to overcome these diseases.
So you are encouraged by what has happened on the ground in Guinea since the outbreak began there?
Instead, we are encouraged. The beginning was difficult because, as I said earlier, it was difficult to understand, to know that it was the disease, and also steps which would have been taken. But as far things were ongoing, and there were good experience about the sensitization, particularly the sensitization of the population. You know, the dead body management is the funeral, the tradition. There were a lot of work to do on that, how to isolate people. It was really difficult.
Of course, an important part of that work was coming from the international community, which rallied around to help those countries affected by the disease, including your own. Do you think their efforts were adequate? Was action quick enough, and was it on the right scale?
At the beginning, it was difficult because we had to convince them about necessity to come and help. But then they came in, but the government was in forefront really at the national level and also for the information of international partners on the necessity to come and help the country and also to coordinate the position on the ground.
And were you happy with their response?
So far, yes, of course.
Now, what are the most pressing priorities and challenges that you've detected since this outbreak in actually fighting Ebola?
The first things I would say was that the infrastructure, the health infrastructure, were not adequate, and the health workers were not prepared to tackle the disease. And as far as things were ongoing, we draw lessons from those. And as you are asking me now, the most pressure things are, what can we be doing to prevent this kind of the disease in the future? And that means we should take steps to have adequate health infrastructure and to have a good training of medical workers.
Because, of course, the adequate infrastructure is clearly essential, because it was the absence of that adequate infrastructure that allowed the outbreak on the scale that it did in those three countries.
Of course, particularly there were not adequate laboratory. You would recall that when the disease appears, it was known that there were disease, but there were not a laboratory work to find out what kind of diseases it was. Some sample was taken from people to be sent to Dakar in Senegal or to be sent in France. It was when it was confirmed by the laboratories of those countries that it was the outbreak Ebola that the government started taking some action with the coordination and collaboration with the international partners.
And of course now the first large-scale trial of the Ebola vaccine is now underway in Liberia. Your reaction to that?
Well, I'm not a specialist on the vaccine issue, how it's composed and what can be the consequences. I think the problem will not be there. The problem will be how this vaccine can be helpful without harming people. If so far that is proved by WHO and the appropriate institution, I think there would not be a problem.
But that's a critical question, isn't it? Because part of the problem that was encountered by international helpers, if you like, who came in to help those countries, was that they noticed a lot of reticence on the part of the local people to allow, you know, the international people to come and actually help them. They were afraid that these people were bringing the virus rather than coming to take it away. And that's part of the problem. And I wondered what your reaction, or certainly the reaction of people in your country, would be to the fact that the trial actually involves injecting people with a small bit of the Ebola disease. How do you think your people would react to that sort of thing?
Well, let's put this in two ways. The first phase, people did not know about the disease, and people were not prepared in the government to tackle the disease. Then there was this program of sensitization of people to let them know that this was a real disease, and whatever the government and partners were doing, it was in their benefit. I think that has made steps already. Now the second phase is about the vaccine issues. The vaccine issues will have twofold in my view. The first fold will be how the international community and the local government are working together to be convinced that these vaccines are workable. That's the first thing. The second fold will be now, from there, how the second phase of sensitization will be on to convince the population, the local population, to say, yes, the first phase was just to cure you, but this now about the prevention.
Okay.
I think if those steps are taken, I think there will not be a problem.
We'll have to watch and see how that progresses. But stay with us, Ambassador. We'll take a very short break here, but when we come back, we'll be finding out more about the Ambassador's own career and ambitions, both personally, for his country, and for Africa. Do stay with us. Brilliant. Very good. Yep, okay. Okay. Welcome back to Talking Africa here on Arise News, as we continue conversation with my guest this week, His Excellency Paul Goa Zoumanigui, Ambassador of the Republic of Guinea to the UK. Thank you very much indeed for sticking with us there. Now let's talk about your life and about Guinea. For those who don't know your country, describe it to us. The impression, the image that comes to my mind instantly is of that looming figure of Sékou Touré, who I've read a lot about. He was clearly before my time, but I read a lot about him, and an extraordinary character who helped bring your country away from colonial rule and sort of dabbled in, you know, quite a bit of socialism and capitalism, to the point that people didn't quite know which hat he was wearing. Just tell us about your country and how it's evolved.
Thank you very much, and this is a long story. If we would spend maybe 2 or 3 nights.
Make it short. This is a television program.
That's what I'm trying to say. My country became independent on the 2nd of October 1958. The story is long because we were a French colony. And we declare we were the first French African colony to say no to the community, French community. And that did not ease the relation between Guinea and France. Of course, Sékou Touré, former President Sékou Touré and former President de Gaulle were two people almost with the same character. They loved their countries, and I think their ego encountered, and it was difficult really to come together. And also the process to come to the independence, the way the speech were given in Guinea, if you go to, I had a friend who passed away, the French ambassador, we were very close. He told me that the problem is that the tone of the speech of Sékou Touré did not please, but there are some historical background about that because Sékou Touré grown up in the family where his mother was not hearing properly.
So that set the tone for the relationship between Guinea and France. Mm-hmm. But of course, subsequent to that, there's been no shortage of political turmoil in Guinea. There's been a military junta, attempted coup. But then here you are on a road to high office in London. I mean, how did you, in the face of all this turmoil, end up with this job? I mean, let's put modesty to one side for a moment and explain your, if you like, personal success.
Well, in life, you know, everybody can have his model, probably. I was in the primary school, and one of the ministers in Sékou Touré's time comes, you, young people, you are the minister tomorrow. You are the president tomorrow. You are the high authorities tomorrow. I said, oh, but to be there, what should be done? You have to work hard. And I started like that. When I finished my university in Guinea, I joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I had a proposal to be, after 2 years, in one embassy. But I studied sociology in the university, and to me, my profile was not enough to go to the embassy. I refused to go. And then I tried to have some scholarship. I went in Tanzania where I got my PhD. I came in Germany for some training and had my master's degree here in the UK. And after that, I had some seminars and so on. Then I went back home. When I was there, I got some proposal again. I said, no, I have to stay for a while. Then I was appointed in Canada as deputy ambassador.
Right, and of course you speak English, and it would have worked quite well in Canada. You speak English and French.
That's why I refused to go out earlier, because that's what was one of my objectives, to study English also, to be able to express myself.
So that started your career as a diplomat. Yeah. You were in Canada, you were in the United States, you worked with the United Nations Security Council in Kosovo, and of course, as you did that, you could see Guinea's international star rising. Would you say that rise has been considerable?
Well, I would say yes, from my side and from the side of my country, of course, because wherever I have been, my priority has been really to have a dynamic where I can improve myself and also do something substantial and beneficial for my country. And so far, I would say yes, because when I was at the United Nations, we were able to develop so many things, and that's what you are saying. We were a member of the Security Council in 2002-2003, and that's why I went to Kosovo for the Security Council mission. We were a member of the United Nations Commission for Human Rights before it becomes the Human Rights Council, and so many things. I was in the executive board of UNICEF and the African colleagues.
Right, but sadly, I mean, you know, you also worked in human rights, but sadly, your country doesn't have the most brilliant human rights record. I mean, accusations from the United States of torture being used by your security forces. Yeah. So there's still a considerable amount of work to do, isn't there?
The problem, the issue of human rights is relative. That's what I can say.
Well, if you go around breaking the legs of your opponents or locking them up, then clearly that is not relative. That's a human rights violation.
When you take the political and civil right, there is a consideration about that. When you take the social, economic, and cultural right, you have a consideration on that. And the problem is that in our countries. We need more training of people. Even people who are there. I will give you just one example which
Briefly.
make people laughing. With the former President Lansana Conte, the party on power was PUP, Parti Unité, in French, Parti de l'Unité et du Progrès. And in the acronym, it is PUP or PUP. And the two people, farmers they met, they were friends, they didn't know about this issue, and they said, oh, this democratization issue, I have chosen my party. Have you chosen yours? He said, yes. Which party are you from? I'm from PUP. And you are from people. Oh, we cannot understand issue. We are not from the same party because of the acronym.
Right.
But it was the same party. How can you discuss deeply, substantial on human rights issue with those people who do not know even that they belong to the same party?
Right, but of course in your country, I mean, you've had a one-party state for a very long time, and following the shooting of President Camara in 2009, Guinea went into a transitional process from that junta regime. It was a very difficult and complex situation, with you in a key advisory role to the administrations. What lessons do you think Guinea has learned from those turbulent years?
Yeah, the problem is that the lesson should be that we were in transition before the actual president, Professor Alpha Condé, came into power. Since he came, he is trying really to put legal institution in place. When you go to the judicial and so on, he's trying to do his best. But I will just quote one of the books that caught President Conte also. He said, to conceive human rights issues and legal issues is something, but to implement is something else. Because at the highest level, he can conceive, but he's not the one implementing. It should be implemented through all the institutions. How does the institution, people dealing with those institutions, are trained and how are they implementing? I think that's the transition we are in now, and we should really make an effort to bring people to understand all these issues on human rights and other issues to be able to go
stay with us, Ambassador. We'll be talking about the future. Time now for another short break. But when we come back, we'll be asking the Ambassador of the Republic of Guinea to use his crystal ball and look beyond Ebola at how Guinea might progress as a nation in the 21st century. Okay. Welcome back to Talking Africa here on Arise News, as we continue a conversation with my guest this week, His Excellency Paul Goa Zoumanigui, Ambassador of the Republic of Guinea. And we look now to future potential, both at home and in Guinea and across the wider continent. And of course, development is a big issue, not just in Guinea, but across Africa. And an essential part of that is physical infrastructure, such as transportation, power, communication, all that inhibiting growth and productivity in Guinea and, of course, the wider Africa.
Yes, in the case of Guinea, and I think progress are ongoing since the President Alpha Condé came into power. I think the because of the election of President Alpha Condé in 2010 and the election of the members of the parliament in 2013, I think those were progress which brought us toward the stabilization of the country. That has been done. That there have been now so many, you know, as you have just started, Guinea is endowed of richness, wealth. We have mineral, as you say. We have energy, we have the fishery, agriculture.
Yes, I'm going to talk about those minerals in a minute. But what I'm trying to get to is essentially that there are so many. I mean, when you talk about Guinea and Africa in general, I mean, there are so many things that need to be done. I mean, beyond physical infrastructure, you're also talking about social infrastructure, water supply, sanitation, sewage, education, healthcare. I mean, there is no quick fix, is there?
There are plans. There are plans. Issues, education, and so on. Yeah. But how to tackle them? we have to go step by step. And you know, those are not things you can undertake today and see the result tomorrow. And then you need undertaking this, but the result is not going to be for tomorrow. And maybe the real result and the substantial result can be just in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. We should, in Africa in general, be patient, not just to see the power as going to sit in the seat and to say, but to see, to try to analyze, okay, is this project the actual government is doing essential and substantial for the country?
Or is it a white elephant?
Yes,
basically?
yeah, a white elephant. And is it going to be sustainable for the country?
Right.
Even though he is not there today, but what he has undertaken will have the result in 10 years, 15 years' time.
Now, you mentioned previously about Guinea's mineral wealth, which we all know is considerable. I mean, globally, it's has got the second largest deposit of bauxite, which, of course, is an essential ingredient in producing aluminium. You have gold, you've got diamonds, you've got uranium, you've got iron ore. My question is, how does Guinea extract the maximum potential from all of that? And how is it going to use that to the benefit of Guinean people as we go into the 21st century?
What has been done first, it is really to make an inventory of all of those things, those were done, and to see if the plans and the rules which were in place were adequate for the exploitation of those minerals. That has been done. We have the mining codes today, which has been amended. We have the code of investment, and so on. And when it comes to the institution, there are two, well, there are ministries, of course, but there are two main institutions. One is what we call in French Agence des Grands Projets, a big project when it goes beyond certain amount that you have to direct there, and that's located at the head of state office. And you have Agence de Promotion des Investissements Privés, which deals with the private issue. And you can come there. It has been demonstrated that previously it took 3 months to make the paperwork. Today, in 72 hours, you can do all your paperwork.
That's a very interesting point you mentioned there about the private side of what you're doing, the fact that you're bringing the private, you're going into a partnership with private people. Because, I mean, Guinea has socialist traditions. I mean, that's what it's associated with. That's what people know it for. And what I'm interested in is how do you sort of work with the private sector wearing that sort of socialist hat?
Well, socialist hat, I would say yes, because we are confined. That was the matter of history. I will not go to those details now. But the way we deal with the private issue, I'm here, for instance, as an ambassador. If an investor is interested to go to make something private, he has to come to see us. As soon as he has, we have a counterpart in the capital. I can even call them because the head of the private promotion of a private agency was here. He was taken here to be appointed as Guinean. I can call him and we can come up with the paperwork to be done and the people can go in. And today I was talking about the 72 hours process, and now we have what we call the stop shop. And that's why, because previously you had to go to every ministry, but today they are representative.
Well, all the African countries talk about a one-stop investment shop, but I mean, presumably yours works well. Now, let's just move on here. Your boss right now, Alpha Condé, became the first democratically elected president in 52 years, since Guinea's independence in 1958. Now, another general election is looming. You're bound to say that Alpha Condé has done a good job. But what I want to know is, what do you think are his challenges are going to be in trying to win a second term?
Well, the challenge is to just let know people about what he's doing. You know, in Africa, our population are composed of at several levels. You have certain who are not literate. You have to take the time to explain to them, this is what I'm doing. And as I was starting, there are projects that you undertake, but the result is not there. And sometimes people want to see a quick result of your project in order to follow you. And what we call sometimes people can make political clientelism, just to show up and to say this what.
Right. So he's got to explain his projects to the people and convince them that he's done a good job.
Indeed.
A final thought from you, Ambassador. One wish for your country as we head into the rest of 2015.
My wish is really to see my country developed. And I'm not selfish, I would say, in the interest of our country and in the interest of Africa and the world. Because any country can stay in vacuum to say that I'm going to be developed. We need some interaction, we need some complementarity. But of course, to have a complementarity, you have to have certain things to give to others and to take certain things from others. And my big wishes will be really to see my country develop and all those people who have a good will to come and help.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.